you're my friend, you can't know what I need and what I don't need if I'm always only saying yes to you. You can't know what makes me happy and what frustrates me and what overwhelms me if I'm always only saying yes to you. I'm always only ever taking all of your calls, doing all the things that you want to do, even if I'm tired, even if I don't have the time, even if I don't have the energy, even if I don't have the money, right?
Welcome to the Trust in Her Journey podcast. I'm Felicia.
And I'm Crystalline.
This podcast is a safe space for women who are carrying a lot, women who are trying to trust themselves again while managing the weight of their roles and responsibilities.
We know what it's like to feel stretched thin because you're constantly showing up for everyone and putting your own needs last. Here, we have honest conversations about the silent struggles many women face.
We're so glad you're here. In every episode, we'll talk about the real challenges women navigate, whether it's juggling work and family, carving out time for yourself, or learning to trust your instincts again.
You'll hear us share personal stories and lessons from our experience to help you trust your path and rethink what peace and balance actually looks like for you.
Our goal is to guide you through the hard moments with honest conversations about boundaries, self-care, and leaning on your faith for strength.
If you've been feeling overwhelmed, unseen, or unsure about how to care for yourself while caring for everyone else, you're in the right place.
Just a quick heads up, this podcast isn't a substitute for working with a licensed counselor or therapist, but don't worry, if you need that kind of support, we've got some resources for you in the show notes. Let's start the conversation. All right.
Welcome back to Trusting Her Journey. This is Crystalline Howard. I am with my lovely co-host Felicia.
Hey, y'all. How are y'all today? How are you today?
I'm doing good. I got a little extra sleep last night.
Okay.
My baby girl is on summer break, so
Ooh.
I've been hanging out late with her. Well, hanging in. We're not outside. But I've been staying up late with her
You
at
don't want
night.
to know the song that popped in my head for that.
What song?
Girl, no, I'm going to save that side because it's very ratchet.
It's okay. It's all right.
It's a TikTok song that's been like in my head, we outside tonight. So yeah, I'm not going to.
Not me and baby girl, no. Oh, goodness. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good. I've actually started this challenge for myself, more of trying to work on consistency, but also another way to just show up for myself outside of my home, outside of like family,
Okay. So
work,
you
all of
outside a little
that.
bit?
So I'm outside a little bit. I have been walking between 8 to 10,000 steps a day. So
Wow.
yeah, every evening for the past week and a few days now, I've been doing like 3 mile walks, just
Good.
going out and like really being like grounded in the moment, honestly. So
Mhm.
paying attention to things, looking at my surroundings, walking to the park. I've even met a few people on the walk. So it
That's
feels
good.
good. I feel like it's helping me relax and bring my stress in a little bit. So that's been
Good.
cool. I'm
I,
excited.
I know it makes a difference as you're doing it at the end of your day.
Yes,
Mhm.
because I'm a gym girly that I will go in the morning. And one thing that I realized is prior to children and marriage and life and all of those things, before I would go to the gym every evening after work because that was kind of like my stress
Gotcha.
reliever. It
Yeah.
was my way to disconnect after
Hmm.
a long day. And I feel like I'm picking that back up, and I didn't realize how much I missed it until I started last week, and it's been cool. It's been cool to
Good.
revisit that again.
Good.
So yeah.
This womanhood thing is serious business.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing some things for yourself, it cannot take a back seat. And I understand sometimes you have to kind of pause things,
Yes.
as
And
you
get
are.
creative with the
Yes.
way that you show up for
Hmm.
yourself. But yeah.
Yep. Yep. Um, so doing things that you used to love, yeah, now I'm inspired.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
I'm sorry.
actually what's kind of crazy is because on I just posted about it on my like therapy business page, and I was like, I'm doing this challenge for myself. Who wants
Hmm.
to join? And so like we have women that's in the group, and the whole thing that I would say my message is it's not so much of how many steps you take, it's not so much of like what that activity is. It's just
Hmm.
all around like how do you show up for yourself? And so changing the narrative to a I would say a space of or moving or redefining the narrative from it being like you have to do this particular thing and you really
Hmm.
just do what feels well for you. And
Yeah.
just to hear the feedback and the comments, I'm like, we all kind of needed this support
Who
from each
knew?
other. Yeah, like who knew that this could be a thing to bring people together? So yeah, I'm excited
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. Do you think that some women who see what you're doing, see what you're sharing, that you're kind of getting back to doing some of the old things you used to do, but in a new way? Do you think that some of those women have maybe some external or some internal roadblocks, things that they've been longing for, getting back to doing some things they used to do, and
Mhm.
now they can't anymore?
Yeah.
Maybe it's their responsibilities they had at
Yes.
home,
Yes.
things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Work.
I definitely see that. And I mean, those are some of the comments. Those are some of the things that they share. Like, I work full time and then when I get home from work, I have like the kids or, I
Mm,
have to cook dinner or I have to, do whatever it is, clean up the
yeah.
house, wash clothes. I mean, our laundry list can go on and on around like the things that we have to do. And one thing that I have like kind of helped myself see as well as okay, how can you combine those things together? So I'm throwing a load of laundry in, but then I'm going to walk, and when I come
Hmm.
back, it's like I can put them in the dryer. Or,
Right.
I one day I asked my daughter, I was like, "Hey, you want to go on a walk? Like you can ride your bike and I can walk."
Yep.
And we're outside and it's different, but it's not like, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, can you do this? Can you give me this?" It's like
Right.
she is so focused on riding that bike that I can
Yeah.
still get my time. So I
Hmm.
do know that roadblocks come up, and I'm not going to say that it's easy. I've just been, focused on how can I be intentional with it. And that's also the message that I've been sharing. Like just
Right.
do what works for you. Just figure out what that looks like, even if it's during the day on lunch break, even if it's after you drop the kids off at school, whatever flows
Yeah.
for you.
What if the roadblock is, maybe someone in your home adding to your plate or not helping with their responsibilities? You've already said,
Mm.
hey, I need help with this and that because I want to go to the gym or I want to
Mm-hmm.
walk.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to tell you that this is what I'm doing, and they're still either saying they're not going to help. Yeah. What do you say about that?
I think that's where we kind of go into the whole conversation of today
Hmm.
around like setting boundaries because it sounds like, that person communicated a need or a desire of theirs and they're like, I need help, I need this.
Hmm.
And maybe they have thought about setting the boundary, but they haven't completely gone through with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm stating this or I'm setting this boundary. Now what? So I feel
Right.
like we can kind of, go into today's episode around like what that would look like. Because I feel like it's two sides to this, and we'll be talking about the other side in our next episode. But there's a side where you will maybe have to be a little bit more firm with the way that you are setting the boundaries or
Yep.
communicating like how you will move in this season and then to the other person. And then I think on the other side, which we'll talk about next, is like how do you still set that boundary with yourself to continue with the actions or the behaviors that you want to change or the things that you want to do for you.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is the right time to just jump in. What do you think?
I think so too.
Okay. All right.
I think
So
so too.
I think before we go any deeper, I love to call you the boundary boss. I feel like that is how maybe I first learned about you and your work. I know that
Yeah.
we've been in communities together. In your own words, can you break down what a boundary actually is or how you define that when you're telling people like, hey, this is a boundary?
Right. So a boundary is when you have a very clear line that tells others how you want to be treated. It's also a clear line for how you're going to treat yourself. It's not a wall. It's not
Mm,
like, punishment or a way for you to like keep other people out of your life or out of your space. Well, it can be depending on
mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
person and the relationship, but it is a form of just another way for you to show up for yourself, to show love to yourself. But you have to be really, really clear about it, and respectful too, and just in the way you communicate your boundaries.
Okay, all right. I really love that because I do think so often when we have conversations about boundaries or even when we talk about like, hey, this is how you set a boundary or here's how I set boundaries, sometimes people can be painted as aggressive or
Mm-hmm.
even, the favorite word that comes out a lot is selfish.
Yep.
But I love that what you're saying is like, this is really about protecting your peace and not pushing people away. So I think
Yep.
that's where, when you define that a boundary is about, like, I want to share with you how I want to be treated, how I want us to show up in a relationship together versus the wall where I am
Yes.
completely shutting
Yes.
you out or I'm
Right.
pushing you away
Yes.
because of the way that we engage in this relationship.
Right. So look
And
at it like a line, right? If the
yes.
boundary is a line, on the one end, I'm protecting my peace, not a line, not a
Mm,
wall, right? So
mm,
on one side of the line, I'm protecting my peace. I'm
mm-hmm.
showing love to myself. I'm honoring my capacity. And remember, when I specifically talk about capacity, I'm talking about your physical and mental,
Mm-hmm.
emotional, spiritual capacity.
Yeah.
Sometimes your resources too, right? So you don't need to be,
Mm,
for example, lending money you don't have. But anyway,
honey.
um,
And even if you have it, you don't
you
have
don't
to
have to
lend
give
it
it
out.
to everybody. Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
right, the line on one end, it protects my peace, it honors my capacity, it teaches other people how to relate to me, how to
Yeah.
be in community with me, how to be in relationship with me.
Mm.
There doesn't have to be a lot of over explaining that, or apologizing for that. That's not selfish. It actually strengthens relationships.
Yes. And to me, I really, of course, you already touched on it, but boundaries are definitely a form of self-love for me. Like,
They are
hands down, you
100%.
already know how I feel about
Yep.
self-love and
Yep.
talking about it. And I just truly believe that boundaries, it helps you show up for yourself first so that you
Mm-hmm.
can engage in healthier relationships with
Yep.
people,
Yep.
your community, or whatever that looks like for you. But then you're coming from a place of like wholeness and not depletion. So like I'm not coming to you and when I'm depleted, like I'm whole because I'm taking care of myself, because I'm putting myself first. I'm
Mm-hmm.
setting boundaries in the spaces that I need to, and I don't feel depleted. I don't feel overwhelmed. It goes
Yep.
back to the capacity, and
Exactly.
what you have the capacity for.
Exactly. I think that once we recognize the importance of assessing what we do have the capacity to do, to manage, to hold, um, it becomes that much more easier to even know what boundaries need to be put in place. A lot of times we're just always on. We're either
Oh,
performing, showing up,
yeah,
giving, serving,
yeah,
helping, doing all the things, just and things that are just part of your day-to-day experience, things that
agreed.
have to get done.
Yeah.
Um, so it may look like you can handle a lot of things at once, and you don't recognize, oh, it's getting harder for me to fall asleep at night.
Mm-hmm.
I've had this headache for longer than I realized.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
right?
I have no appetite.
I'm not eating, or I'm
Yeah,
eating more than I want to.
yeah.
And part of that, again, we'll talk about boundaries with self in another episode, but just not making a habit of ignoring those warning signs.
Yes.
I think it's really important
So
for women, but
when you talked about earlier, setting boundaries and not walls, I
mm-hmm.
think sometimes people confuse setting
Right.
a boundary with creating a wall,
Mm-hmm.
especially, and I get it, especially in relationships that are draining. They just feel
Mm-hmm.
so tired, like it's
Yes.
a lot that's happening. I'm
Yes.
curious to hear what would you define as like a wall? Talk about the walls.
Okay. So in a passive way, that was like my go-to. If I knew I wasn't going to be able to say no,
Mm,
um, for whatever the reason was, maybe it's because of the relationship I have with the person. Maybe it's because, yeah, usually that's what it was, like who they were to me. Um, I would just avoid them. Um, I would avoid engaging with them, having certain conversations with them, or act like I didn't get the text or I didn't see you calling or whatever. Sometimes even distancing myself, just depending again on the relationship with the person, because I didn't want to have to do the thing that was really, really hard. One of the biggest misconceptions I see is that people feel like when I have a boundary, I gotta put a wall up. But
mm,
walls keep everybody out. And that's not healthy for us.
mm-hmm,
We need to have community.
mm-hmm,
But a boundary, on the other hand, is really intentional.
mm,
It can be flexible, but the bottom line is it's rooted in love. How this is how I want to show love for myself so that I can have better relationships with other people. You can't know if you're my friend, you can't know what I need and what I don't need if I'm
mm.
always only saying yes to you. You can't know what makes me happy and what frustrates me and what overwhelms me if I'm always only saying yes to you. I'm always only ever taking all of your calls, doing all the things that you want to do, even if I'm tired, even if I don't have the time, even if I don't have the energy, even if I don't have the money, right? Um,
Yeah.
so a boundary says, this is what I need
Mm.
to be loved, to be respected, to feel valuable in this relationship.
Okay. So it's like you're giving them a healthy invitation to like connect and not
Yeah.
necessarily disconnect. But it sounds like with walls, when we typically set up
Stay
walls,
out.
we are stay away. Listen here. Don't come near me. But it
Mm-hmm.
truly sounds like we are trying to protect ourselves, but that's rooted in fear.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
okay.
it is. I read somewhere, or maybe I heard it somewhere, that boundaries build bridges.
Mm.
They can if you let them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just back to the relationships being healthier. Or allowing yourself to build a bridge
Mm-hmm.
between you and the other person, because now I'm not doing things out of fear that you're not going to want to be around me, fear that
Yeah.
you're not going to love me anymore, but
Yeah.
I'm inviting you, I'm welcoming you into my space, into my world, and letting you know I want you to stay there, but these are the conditions.
Mm. Yeah. I mean I think that's why it's so important for us really to like create some time for self-reflection,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we are on a journey of setting boundaries or learning how to set boundaries for
Yep,
the first time,
I
or
agree.
we are going at it again, we're giving another stab at, setting boundaries. I think it's important for us to really reflect on like, okay, am I setting a boundary or am I creating a wall?
Mm-hmm.
Am I like setting this boundary to avoid people, to keep people away, to make
Yeah.
sure that I'm kind of in my own space and they're
Mm-hmm.
in their own space, which eventually we don't even realize that we're setting walls. We're just like, it's a boundary. Nope, that's a
Yeah.
boundary. No,
Right.
they ticked me off. They said this about me. They said that about me. So I am creating this boundary with this person. And then we go
Mm-hmm.
on this, I'm gonna say boundary setting spree. Sometimes once we started, we can't
Now you
stop. We're
disconnect from
trying to
everybody. Yeah, that's
then you're
not healthy.
completely isolated from
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
You're shutting down and you don't
Mm-hmm.
even realize that you're doing it
Yep.
until you look up and you're like, "Wait, I have no one in my circle. I have no one in my community." Like you begin to feel isolated and alone.
Yeah.
That is what I
Yeah.
hear often.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, even with that, right? Let's just say you're in a space where I think even the example that you gave earlier around like I have this person in my home or this person that's in my environment that I'm sharing, hey, I need this. I need to do this. I would like to do this. You're trying to set a boundary, but
Mm-hmm.
then this person is not too fond of the boundary or, apply
Yeah.
this in any way that it resonates in your life. What do people do? Like, what do
Oh,
you do when you set the boundary? I think that's why
that's a
the
common
purpose.
struggle
Yeah.
that I think a lot of us have dealt with. I mean, I think I'm grateful that my husband is um he is my number one supporter of me
Hmm.
not doing too much. He reminds me often if I'm doing too much. And part of that is because when I'm doing too much, it makes me more I'm more tired, I'm more irritable, I'm
Hmm.
more frustrated. So he likes when I push back and put
Hmm.
boundaries into place with
Yeah.
other people. But if that's your struggle, boundaries, they really do reveal your true the meaning behind a lot of the relationships that we have, or
Hmm.
maybe not the meaning, but how a person feels about you,
Hmm.
what they think about you,
Yeah.
because the people who love and care about you, who want you to be well in a holistic way, they may not necessarily like that. Now you got to tell them no more often, but they'll respect that and they'll know that Felicia's saying no because they'll know that
Hmm.
because they'll understand it and they will support that. They
Yeah.
will support you in that.
What about, I was gonna say, what about because
Not
you gave
everybody else.
a positive example of like
Mm-hmm.
communicating your needs to your husband and then him
Mm-hmm.
supporting you. And I can't help but to think about the woman who is like trying to set a boundary with a family member, with a friend, with a
Mm-hmm.
partner, and the support is
It's
not
non-existent.
there.
Yep.
Like they're not clapping for this new skill that this person is
Mm-hmm.
trying to
Yeah.
like build and cultivate. They're not excited that you're setting the boundary. So what would you tell that person?
I would tell her to consider when you mentioned self-reflection earlier, and that's key because we got to consider how we got here, right? I don't know that it's accurate that just out the gate people are just not respecting your boundaries. It's likely that your boundaries maybe were non-existent before,
Hmm.
and so they were used to you always saying yes, always only saying yes, always only doing all the things,
Hmm.
and not sharing some of the load with them or letting them know how you really truly feel. And so I would tell her to give herself some grace, right? Once she identified, yeah, this is probably some of this is on me because I just kind of let things, I was really lax with my boundaries or I loosened them up maybe, or maybe I
Hmm.
didn't have any at all.
Hmm.
So I would tell her to give herself some grace and to not stop having the conversation, to not stop letting the person know, this is what I need. This is why I need these things that I need. I'm noticing how I feel. I'm noticing in my body I don't feel good. I'm noticing that I'm crying more than I want to. I'm eating more than I want to. Let if this is a relationship you decided is worth trying to save or sustain or hold on to, and if it's one you decided not, then that's a conversation for another podcast. But
Yeah.
consider the person that you're setting the boundary with. Consider the person that you're sharing the space with. Consider your relationship. This is not
Mm-hmm.
about you fighting with someone or being disrespectful or causing a lot of disagreements, but you do have to consider if they are always bucking up against you when you're trying to put a boundary in place, you need to decide how you want to move forward or if you want to move forward in that relationship.
I think you're also saying that even when you work on setting that boundary and or you are on a journey of healing and people aren't excited about it, they're not cheering you on, they feel uncomfortable, we still want you to know that you weren't wrong for setting the boundary. Like
No. Other people's
nothing that you
reaction to your
did
boundary
is
is not an
not
indication
your
that what you did is bad or
Baby, it's not your
wrong. Hmm.
responsibility, how they choose to respond. I just truly believe that even when you continue to set those boundaries, continue to communicate, it just shows that you are choosing peace over people pleasing. And
Yep,
to me, that's progress any day,
it
especially
is.
when you're working on healing and showing up as a
Hmm.
different version of yourself or just showing up for yourself.
Well, that part, the showing up for yourself. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it.
That's a boundary.
Hmm. It is. It's a reminder, a divine reminder that
Mm,
your heart, this which is the center of our emotions, right? Um, our energy, our spirit, it's all sacred. And everybody should not have access to it. So God is literally telling us to guard it, protect it. He's not asking us to be closed off of other people, but he's inviting us to protect something that's really sacred and valuable. It's no different than, again, we'll talk about self boundaries later, but being mindful of the conversations you have, the shows you watch, all we have to guard our hearts. We can't just allow, we have to monitor our intake. Boundaries are just one way that we can do that. I know for me, I used to think that being a good Christian meant I just had to always be there for other people,
mm,
always show up for other people, always support other people. And
hmm.
yes, we want to give back, we want to volunteer. And that's just a natural part of who I am, and I enjoy
Yeah.
doing those things.
Yeah.
But even Jesus modeled rest for us. He walked away from crowds. He
Mm,
walked away when there was too much being asked of him. He said no. Um, he was even disappointed in people, and but he did not. He didn't forsake us in a way that looks like, well, I'm just going to shut you all off, right? Thank
hmm.
God for
Hmm.
that, because
Yeah.
where would we all be? So
Yeah.
anyway, that tells me a lot that you can love somebody and still have a boundary. You can still say no. We do it with our children, right? Our
Hmm.
Heavenly Father does it for us. We pray and ask Him for things, and sometimes that we're not ready for. And so He knows they're not ready. So I got to say no. And we do it
Yeah.
for our children all the time.
So you can honor others without abandoning yourself.
You can. I think
Yeah.
that is the whole idea behind self love, too, right?
Well, honey. Yeah, because I also believe that when we set boundaries, it's not about failing to show up. It's just learning how to show up in ways that don't cost us our peace. It's not costing us our joy. It's not
Mm-hmm.
costing us our health. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyday
Yep.
wellness and well-being. It's not costing us or not causing, I think,
Yeah.
us to feel depleted just to show up for
Right.
other people or to show
Right.
other people that we care about them.
Right. So, to address the elephant in the room, you are likely going to feel some guilt
Mm,
while you are enforcing these boundaries, especially because you're breaking old patterns or habits or ways of
hmm.
doing things. You're changing how you show up for people, how you interact with people. Um, it's important for our listeners to know that guilt is not a sign that you're doing something wrong.
Nope.
It to me is a sign that you're growing.
I agree. I agree. And it's uncomfortable, and that's
It
what
is.
growth is. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
growth, it sometimes bring discomfort.
Yep.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that like you're not doing the right thing or you're doing something
Yeah.
wrong. You're
Yeah.
just being stretched
Yep. You are.
in
And
a
that's okay.
different way.
And
Yes.
that's okay.
So I think this is probably the perfect time to kind of segue into like, okay, you just mentioned guilt may be present.
Yeah.
When guilt will be present. 9 times out of 10, it
That's
will
accurate.
be
I agree.
present.
I don't think there's a question if it's gonna show up.
It's
It
definitely going to
is.
show up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can move into a space of like giving you all some tools to navigate the guilt after setting boundaries because we know that that's a heavy feeling
It is. It is.
that
Well,
can
and
come up.
I think it's the number one reason why a lot of women don't
Of
enforce boundaries.
course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Um,
Yes.
but consider this. Consider that guilt is not proof that you did something wrong, right? We said that. Um, and this is something that my clients and I talk about a lot, where we are trying to explore
Mm,
where this feeling of guilt comes from, what else it may mean, because we know our body reacts in a lot of different ways that are just signaling us, giving
hmm
us a signal that something is not right, that something is not okay. Um, and so if you're getting ready to say no to someone, you might feel literally some pain in your stomach, a lump in your throat, your palms might get kind of sweaty. That's a warning sign that something is either not okay or your body is maybe not okay with it. And doesn't mean it's bad, doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's wrong. So a lot of women, especially high achieving women, guilt shows up like as a trauma response. We have been taught to prioritize other people's comfort over our well-being and
hmm
in our families and our
hmm
workspace. And
Yeah.
so when we say no, it can trigger a lot of things like shame.
Yes.
You're protecting yourself, but I still feel bad.
Yes. And even I think I love that we can name it as a trauma response. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that sometimes it just shows up like a form of conditioned guilt. Like we've
Mm-hmm.
witnessed this before. So
Mm-hmm.
like we feel as if, okay, I already know that people will call me selfish or they will say that I don't care about them. So I'm just gonna feel guilty automatically
And I know it's
just
coming.
just because I
Mm-hmm.
know that that is coming. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I kind of share with my clients, especially when they are learning to set boundaries again or
Mm-hmm.
they're starting fresh with setting
Yes.
boundaries,
Yes.
is to pause and really ask yourself, is this guilt based on my values or someone else's discomfort?
If you decided it
So,
was something that you valued, then honor yourself by standing 10 toes down in the boundary that you set
okay.
instead of betraying yourself. It's so
Yes.
interesting how we try to figure out how to be, well, actually, we are a lot more comfortable letting ourselves down than we
Then,
are letting other people down. And I'll add this because this does come up a lot with the women that I work with. Sometimes
hmm
we label guilt, what we're feeling is guilt, but it's actually grief. You're not feeling bad because you've done something wrong. You're grieving the version of yourself that never said no because you
hmm
were invited to the party, air quotes
hmm
around party, a lot more because you always said yeah. Um,
Yes.
you probably are grieving the version of you who got a lot of love because you overgave. The
Yes.
version of you who you were praised a lot
For
because you were
being selfless.
selfless.
Yeah. And I think even it goes back to what we talked about last week, the version of you who had to perform instead of
Mm-hmm.
like resting. So
Yep.
like you constantly had to prove that you were
Yep.
on, that you could get it
Yep.
right.
Yep. Yep.
So when you finally decide to say no,
Mm.
I believe that's when you choose peace.
Yep.
When you show up differently, it may feel uncomfortable, but
It's going to be
again,
uncomfortable. Yeah.
it's not saying that you're doing anything wrong.
Nope.
It just means that you're growing, you're healing, and you're releasing an old identity that no longer aligns with you, your values, and where you want to go.
Felicia, that is grief.
Yeah,
That is grief. But
yeah,
that feeling that way is not a sign of failure. It's a sign
no.
that you are changing, you're growing. Um, so you're not guilty. You don't have to feel guilt. You're grieving the woman that you used to be.
Mm.
That deserves compassion. That doesn't deserve shame. You don't have to make yourself feel bad for doing the thing that you know is the best thing for you.
Whew. Again, I feel like this is a conversation that you and I could probably talk about for hours at a
Literally.
time. But because we're like, okay, sis, this is not the podcast where we will be on these mics for 2 and 3 hours.
No,
Like
no,
we
we
are
won't.
doing Sunday school, regular service, then afternoon. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet, and get to the point. But of course, there will be other ways that you can hear more about our thoughts, especially if you open the emails after the episodes.
Yes.
We go a little bit more in depth with our thought process and the conversations that we're having and extra tips and tricks that could be helpful for you.
Yes.
But before you head back into your day, here's where we kind of do our rest stop and we fuel up for the road ahead.
So remember, boundaries are an act of bravery. Don't y'all like that?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be brave enough to do something that's not easy, but it is
Mm-hmm.
necessary. And when, not if, when the guilt shows up, remind yourself that I'm growing. I might be grieving the version of me that got a lot of what looked like love from a lot of people, but it's okay. It's all right. This is how I'm going to show love for myself.
Yeah.
This is how I'm going to work on healing. And I'm going to trust this part of my journey.
Yeah. So, of course, we always leave you with a reflection question. And the one for today is, where in your life are you feeling guilty for choosing peace? And what would it mean to honor that choice anyway? So, a small step that you can take this week is to notice one place where you've set the boundary and instead of apologizing for it, affirm it. So, say to yourself, this boundary honors me. And I think that that
Mhm.
goes back, or it kind of, you can add the reflection question to the next
Yes.
small
Yes.
step
Yep.
and affirm that this boundary honors me. This boundary honors my values
Mhm.
and the journey that I'm on towards healing and becoming the
Yes.
version of myself that maybe I desire or I envision.
Yeah. Yeah. Just remember, you don't have to explain your piece to people who benefit from you being exhausted.
Mm.
Set the boundary, keep the boundary.
Okay, wow. But more importantly, let's normalize boundaries that heal, but also boundaries that help us take care of ourselves and show up for ourselves. So again, take care of yourself and trust your journey. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Peace.
That's it for today's conversation. We're so glad you joined us.
If this episode spoke to you, we'd love for you to subscribe, share it with a friend, or leave us a review. It helps more women like you find this space.
Join us next time for another honest conversation. Until then, take care of yourself and trust your journey.